Up next, number 3, John Zagrodzky. I hope I said that right, and if I did not, my apologies.
Madam Chairman, yes, thank you very much. My name is John Zagrodzky, and I'm the first selectman for the town of Darien. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this testimony today. It's in opposition for House Bill 6831, an act concerning transit-oriented communities. I think everyone recognizes that we need to work together to address affordable housing, but no single strategy works in every town. Rather, each town should be allowed to create affordable housing in a way that works best for that town. In Darien, for example, our local developers are required to designate 14% of new apartments they build as affordable. This has resulted in 29 units of new affordable housing added in our town just in the last 3 years, and 46 more approved and under construction over the next 3 years. And all of this is in a town that's already 98% developed. Further, Darien has amassed nearly $1 million in its affordable housing trust fund to leverage and create additional affordable housing units here in our town. As for transit-oriented development, many of the affordable units built or being built by private developers in Darien that I just referenced are in fact near transit stations. But I think it is a mistake to mandate size, density, or location of these developments. I also think it's a mistake to subsidize outside developers to meet such mandates. Doing so would encourage these outsiders to build whatever they wanted to maximize profits without regard to the impact on local infrastructure, traffic, or architecture. The only thing on their minds will be taking advantage of state subsidies as quickly as possible, no matter how damaging or intrusive their developments are to our community. The bottom line for me is this: Darien is working to support affordable housing and transit-oriented development. The results have been meaningful. We are doing our part on our terms, and it's working. We do not need a change to this winning formula. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. And I would say that's wonderful that you are providing affordable housing units. And certainly I'm excited to hear that you've committed to that 14%. Although I don't know that I would necessarily get very excited about 29 units over 4 years. I would also point out that it is not a mandate, it is an option. And I believe your transit-oriented district would be grandfathered in. So just wanted to put those points out there because I know there's a lot of talking points out there that are frankly incorrect and misleading. And so we just want to make sure that we're getting as much of the correct information out there as we can. I'm sure we have folks with questions. No one yet? Okay. Thank you so much for your time, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again?
Oh, Senator Wong, late hand. If you're still there.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. First Selectman Zagrodzky. And I know Darien gets a lot of the portrayal of exclusion and not doing enough, but that may have existed 50 years ago. And I think for you and the previous first select woman, Jamie Stevenson, and even back to Miss Yvonne Klein, that the town understands it needs to make the initiative. And if I'm talking about transit-oriented development, I think you were one of the first to kind of initiate building Avalons right by your train station. And for anyone that is looking to kind of single out Darien as not doing enough, it is trying at its best, but you're limited by land and capacity. But can you talk a little bit about the project that's undergoing that is quite massive in regards to a mixed use and housing initiative that is occurring right now, right in your town? That's question number one. Number two, I'd like to find out from you what kind of impact the legislation has written on 6831 would impact the small transit-oriented stops in Norotan, and how that would impact the neighborhood built in of those train stations, because they're completely different from your main rail station, which is kind of commercial center. But there are a lot of train hubs in neighborhoods that would be dramatically impacted. and neighborhoods would be dramatically impacted. As well as the third component, I would say, is we have climate change. Many of your rail lines are potentially subject to rising floods and tides concerns. Can you elaborate a little bit more as a municipal leader? These are things that you need to contend with instead of just simply a as of right improvement of the noble goal of housing. But those are things that you struggle with, as so many of our southwestern municipalities would train lines that we'll be able to talk more about. So one, your efforts. Number two, how would it impact those small rail stations that are in your community? And number three, if you're building up density in a potential environment that's near or below flood level, what would that do in the climate change initiatives and environmental impact?
Well, Senator, nice to see you again, sir. As always, I appreciate those questions. First, on those developments, there are actually several underway right now, and all of the developers who are managing these projects are local. And by that, I mean not just local, they actually live here in town and have been part of this town for years. One of the great things about it is that they're combining a local appreciation with a need to build affordable housing. I even just spoke with my daughter recently, who has moved away from Connecticut to Chicago because she said, Daddy, I can't find any place to live as a grad student who wants to be an elementary school teacher. And so we all get it. We need to create affordable housing. And all of these projects that I just mentioned, they're around the Norotan Heights train station, but also in town near the Darien station. All of them have met that 14% affordable requirement. And my hope is that in time, we will continue to have more units that could be a place to live for anybody who wants to stay here, which we don't have enough of right now. In terms of affecting the neighborhood train station, Norotan Heights, you raise a really great question, because I drive over there even just this morning on the way up to a meeting in New Canaan. I'm stuck in traffic. And the fact is every time we think about making housing more dense, because we need more density, say in a transit zone, the reality is those people may be taking a train to work, but I tell you, they're bringing their cars with them, and it is creating significant traffic problems, not just in our town, but along the I-95 corridor. It's among the worst traffic anywhere in the country. And so I think we're not taking into account the impact on daily life by adding all of this density. And lastly, in terms of your climate change question, it is a serious point. We do have flooding in the area around Norotan Heights, and any further development there runs the risk of exacerbating that. I would point out, though, that the recent developments have been taken into account. We actually have a flood mitigation project built under Darien Commons, which was recently finished. And our plan is to make sure all future developments have that. But in order to do that, it adds a lot to the cost. And so if we're trying to figure out affordable housing, trying to build housing in areas where land is extremely expensive, where flood mitigation is very expensive, where the impact on traffic is a lot, there's really only so much we could do. I'd love to add hundreds and hundreds of affordable units, but as a practical matter, it's simply not possible. But as I said in my testimony, we will continue to do our part.
No, I appreciate your effort, and you talk about the undeniable laws of economics. Your land cost is prohibitive. Are you familiar with the project that occurred in Westport, in which the DOT granted acreage of land to the town, and the town, in its initiative, along with the state, were able to build significant deed restricted and income flexible housing exclusively? If there were DOT excess land that could be given to your municipality, would that alleviate some of the cost considerations and help you as a municipality to initiate
absolutely. In fact,
full-scale deed-restricted housing, not a developer-driven business?
Yeah, absolutely. It's extremely difficult to build standalone affordable housing in a place like this. I mean, you're looking at $400 a foot to build the building and another $400 to just acquire the land. So for 1,000 square foot unit, you're looking at $800,000 in costs to create that. There's just no way to make that affordable and have a developer make the economics work. But if there is state DOT land that can be contributed to that purpose, then absolutely affordable housing becomes much more possible. There is some land like that in town. I'd have to look to see exactly whether that's a candidate for this simply by its shape, but Sure, we'd be happy to consider that. As I said, we are looking for ways to do our part in a way that works for our town.
No, I
Great.
appreciate that, and I thank you for representing your community, and also sharing your perspective on the efforts that you're making. You're not standing still because obviously there's a sense of urgency, and I appreciate you saying that there is a housing need for everyone, for workforce, for diversity, and actually for access. So, thank you very much for your efforts, and I appreciate your time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you so much. Seeing no other questions at this time, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Up next, number 4, Josh Goldstein.